Well, Adam, Monday practice, I think practice number 11 for
Starting
the
to lose
bus.
track.
Starting to lose track because we didn't go on Sunday. They practiced on Sunday, but Carl Durrell, did let us know today. We were hoping for a definitive, on what the injury is, but Carl Durrell says it's a significant injury, and he'll miss and the JT Shrout will miss an extended period of time. So, asked could he possibly play? He didn't rule that out. It sounds like it's not good. Obviously, it's a significant injury. But we do know Brendan Lewis will be the starting quarterback to start this season, barring him getting hurt.
Yeah, and I mean, first you start from the human element, right?
Mm-hmm.
As Carl Durrell said, that JT Shrout, this has been tough on him, and he feels like he's let his teammates down, which is obviously not the way he should feel, but as Carl Durrell pointed out, that just shows the character of him. You asked Carl Durrell, what do you do with Brendan Lewis as a result? Just because obviously he's a dual threat quarterback, and I think he gave the answer that you have to give is you got to let him play.
Yeah.
And you got to have conversations, and he referenced Sam Noyer's hurdling last year and said you got to be smarter than that. And
Yeah.
JT Shrout's injury was something you couldn't avoid. It was on air, and he just made a kind of a cut that didn't turn out well. And you hear athletes say that if you play not to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. So Brendan Lewis can't go out there worrying about that. But yeah, he can't be hurdling guys. And Sam Noyer hurt his throwing shoulder on a play where he dove head first.
Yep.
So you got to talk to Brendan Lewis about you can't do that. We need you too much. And so now Drew Carter becomes the backup. And Durrell's been honest there. He's not ready to play Pac-12 football right now, but this accelerates the process for him a little bit. And they don't really have a choice there. And he admitted that, hey, there's a couple guys on this roster, and your first thought goes to Matt Lynch, a guy that was a scholarship quarterback coming out of high school, that they've got some contingency plans there at quarterback. And obviously, if you're a CU fan, you hope it doesn't get to that, because even Drew Carter being put out there right now might not be fair to him, but they have no other choice.
Yeah, and to be fair to Drew Carter, I mean, part of why he's not ready is that he hasn't been taking first-team reps at all this offseason. I mean, it's been Brendan Lewis and JT Shrout. And so I asked Coach Durrell, is the silver lining is that it expedites Drew Carter's development, because now he's going to get some more reps and some second-team reps that maybe he didn't get before. And he said, well, I hope so. True freshmen have played. Sefo Lufau in 2013, wasn't even here in the spring and wound up playing, becoming the starter 5 games in. So, true freshmen can play. It's just you've got to have that opportunity. Drew has not had much of an opportunity to really be with the first or second team offense, but now he's going to get that chance. So he doesn't need to be ready now, but you hope that Brendan Lewis stays healthy, and if there's a midseason injury to Brendan, that by then Drew Carter is ready to go. But that's what you hope for.
And you dial it back for Drew Carter as well. We heard Carl Durrell say last year, because the preseason was not a typical preseason following a typical offseason, that they had to really pare down the playbook, and they're going to have to do that with Drew Carter, obviously.
Yeah.
And with Brendan Lewis, the silver lining is that now he's getting all of the ones, the reps with the ones here until the season opener.
And he's been playing well. I mean, by all accounts that we've heard, both he and JT were playing very well. Brendan's had a good camp and looking good. And, there's that debate all the time on a quarterback. Is it better to know earlier than later on who your starting quarterback is? Well, now the Buffs don't have a choice. They know who their quarterback is about 3 weeks before the game. And so now they can just focus on Brendan Lewis and say, hey, you're the guy. Carl Durrell, he was asked, was there a conversation with Brendan? He said there didn't need to be. He knows what the situation is and that he's the guy by default. And so I guess there's no announcement that Brendan Lewis is a starter, but we all know that by default that's what it is.
And Carl Durrell said both those guys have been operating like they're the starter anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really think Brendan Lewis's mindset's going to change any. But again, going back to JT Shrout, you just feel awful. He did play in 8 games at Tennessee, had 1 start, but he had told us a little more than a week ago, this is the first time he has been part of a true quarterback competition. Yeah. And if Brendan Lewis goes out there and performs well this year, he's going to take a hold of that job. But I'm sure they'll give Shrout some type of chance next year.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I feel bad. I went back to that quote last night as I was looking at it. Like, man, you feel bad for the kid just because, like you said, from the human element, here he is after 3 years of, being that career backup at Tennessee. He finally has an opportunity, and then this happens. So you feel bad for him. Hope he gets back healthy soon, but clearly it's the Brendan Lewis era now here at CU. Anything else you want to talk about from today? I know we did a couple of interviews, but
we both had a chance to talk to Guy Thomas.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys that flashed on Saturday, and he's gone on quite a journey, like a lot of
Yeah.
these guys have. He was more of a defensive end coming out of high school in Miami, goes to Nebraska, transfers out of there, goes the JUCO route, comes here, gets his feet wet last year. I think it was 80 snaps he played in the regular season, and he's ready to take that next jump, I think, as an outside linebacker. And Jamar Montgomery, it sounds like he's taking a jump. Josh Gustav. So you really like how that depth is forming around Carson Wells.
Yeah, and Carl Durrell has mentioned a couple times that there's nobody really separating themselves out of that trio, but he likes what he sees out of all of them. They're all going to play, so I think that's good for them. I also talked to Chris Miller, who I think you talked to earlier in camp, feeling good, and just kind of the same thing we talked about before is he doesn't let that injury thing bother him. He's like, hey, I get injured and whatever. I still got family and friends and
a
fishing.
dog, German Shepherd dog.
A dog. He likes to go fishing, video games. He goes, I keep my head up, and so you like to hear that out of him. But he's the guy you and I have talked about so much. I'm not sure there's a guy on this team that you root for more than Chris Miller to be healthy and have a full season and play well, because I think there's so much potential there. And let's hope this is the year.
He adds so much versatility too.
Yeah.
He started as a corner, can play nickel, can play safety. He's probably one of their top 5 talented defensive players when healthy.
I think so. I would put him probably around that top 5, and he's got great potential, and that's what was so disappointing last year. Is I was excited for that potential, then he gets hurt in the first game. So let's hope he stays healthy this year. But I think that'll do it for us today, and we'll be back later this week for a little more analysis.